Yeah. Lynn, can you hear us? Are we live? Can you hear us, Lynn? Checking, testing.
I've got this video as unavailable. I don't know what happened there.
They got the whole thing. Did you send the new one?
Trying to see if it's working or having Lynn check for us. Oh yeah, so Lynn is there. She said hello. Okay, so it's working. Oh, hi, Mistress of Yahweh. Hi. I'm a little tech incompetent, so
Just the Twitter.
yeah, so let me send the link. Actually, I'm gonna have Lynn do that. If you can send the link into the Discord. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna start since we have 2 people in here. And that was my tech guy. He was helping me out, my brother. So welcome to the April 2019 OWLS bloggers live stream. This is our 5th month. Sorry. My brother forgot his coffee. Okay. So this is our, well, May is going to be our 5th month as OWLS bloggers. Sorry guys, I'm so sorry. I'm so nervous.
It's okay.
This is my first time being like the main host, so that's why.
This is my first time participating, so.
No.
Thank you.
So thank you to everyone who's in the chat or not in the chat, anyone who's watching. Lots of hugs and crying emojis.
Yeah, there's a bit of outside noise. Just
Lots and lots of crying ones. But before we start, I just wanted to read our mission for OWLS, in case there's anyone there who does not know what OWLS is. OWLS is a group of content creators who promote acceptance of all individuals, regardless of race, nationality, gender, sexual orientation, religion, and disability, and a whole bunch of other things that are not listed in here. We try to be as inclusive as we can, but we might forget something. So if anyone has feedback for what else should be on there, let us know. We emphasize the importance of respect, kindness, and tolerance to every human being. And every month we discuss real-world topics through online tours, usually through blogs, because the majority of our people in the group are bloggers, but we also have YouTubers and more if you guys join. And we share our personal experiences, analyze pop culture, literature, and other forms of media. And everyone brings something different to the table, so that's the fun thing about our little group. So before we get started on recapping the tour, I just wanted to have our hosts introduce themselves. Today we have Scott and Aria, and then I'm Crimson. So who wants to start?
Hi, I'm Scott from Mechanical Anime Reviews. And I've been a part of OWLS for 2 years, I think, and first time taking part in a live stream.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'm Aria, the AniManga Spellbook. I've been in OWLS since October 2018, and, well, I've been typing OWLS posts for longer than that, just kind of as practice runs. owls bloggers thrive under prompt constraints, and yet there's still so much variety to be found within them, which is why I joined OWLS.
Cool. So I am Crimson, and I run 2 blogs. I run My Fujoshi Life, where I talk about anime and my husband's. And I also blog at Read. Did I say Read at Night? I don't know what I said. And I also blog at Read at Night, where I talk about anything else that's not anime. And I don't really have a title in OWLS, but I've been around for a really long time. Since the age of the dinosaurs.
You're just a general everybody, I guess.
Yeah, I do a little bit of everything, so you might find me lurking around on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere, the blog. And this is my first time being the main host, so that's why I'm nervous. But I'm starting to get a little bit better. I am starting to get a little bit more comfortable. Oh, awesome, Scott! You brought Megan in.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's awesome. I don't know if there's anyone I influenced to like join OWLS, but if you're there and I sent you there, let me know.
Everyone influenced me to come to OWLS. There's still like Shoko, Ori, that sort of thing.
And then I just wanted to let you guys know that I do not force people to be on the live streams. I know in February, Lynn implied that she was there, against her will. I might use some forms of coercion, but they're not completely evil. So thank you, Aria and Scott, for volunteering. No quotes, because you guys volunteered. And then...
Well, I'm just here because of this stuff up last time.
Well, yeah, there was a time zone mix-up, so we figured it out. We triple-checked this time, and that's probably the only reason we got everything right. So yeah, let's get started. No, it's always like really AM with you, Megan. I think last time you were up at I don't know if it was the same time or a little bit later, so thank you for being here. But yeah, let's get started. I'm gonna go ahead and read our April prompt. Our April prompt was masculinity. Last month we explored the meaning behind the term feminine and feminism. This month the OWLS bloggers will explore the concept of masculinity. We each have our own definition of what it means to be masculine, and we will explore our definitions using masculine characters from various pop culture fandoms. We will discuss how these characters are masculine or show signs of a masculine persona. We will also share our personal experiences about the amazing men that supported us in our lives, as well as sharing some of our experiences growing up as a man or knowing men who struggle with the masculine identity. Takes huge breath of air. Lynn, you need comments somewhere. Yeah, so we're going to talk about the posts in the order that they came out. So that means Naja is first. By the way, Naja used to be the one who did the streams originally, along with Kat and Lita. And I know that Kat and Naja are coming back from their hiatus. So please volunteer.
Please.
Yes. But yeah, Naja talked about masculinity in respect to Cute High Earth Defense Club. So who wants to start?
I have some notes, so I could at least talk a little bit about it.
No.
So
Is it you're going to go first?
Oh yeah, I'll do it.
Just do it.
Yes.
Sorry. So, reading through her posts, I liked her traditional ideas of masculine aren't as prominent in society these days. Although a lot of people, especially older people, kind of hold up to a lot of that still. I don't know, because they do. And it's not a show that I've watched because it's not really my kind of thing, but seeing magical girls and then why don't we swim genders and everything, it seemed to kind of make a very interesting...
Oh, sorry.
No, Well, switching to genders and just going through the whole usual spiel was kind of interesting. So, I also made a lot of twists with. I guess not really that twistful actually, considering that it just played it straight. Otherwise, considering that a lot of things were brought up to it, but.
Oh,
Aria?
Yeah.
well, because I've actually seen this show, so
Ooh, I think you're the only one because I haven't watched it either.
like I've watched all of it, even Happy Kiss, which is like the newest one that was out like last year.
Hmm.
Let's see. I noticed that Naja talked about Io and Ryu's friendship and Yumoto, but it doesn't really mention any of the other characters. Well, I'm really biased because my husband in China's there, but then I feel like you could have dedicated entire essays to some of these monsters, and it just please don't joke.
Maybe it's like a first part.
It's very much the first season that she's focusing on, because she doesn't mention anyone from season 2 or Happy Kiss.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you seen Ore?
Which one?
Magical Girl Ore, I think.
Which one is that one?
The one where the magical girl turns into a massive, bulky male.
Oh, that
yeah.
one. I have not watched it, but I know about it.
I'm still not sure what we're talking about.
Yeah, there was this anime that came out that's also kind of in this genre where it's a girl, right, Scott, at first?
Yeah.
Okay, so then when they transform, they turn into like this huge bulky guy in like this cute little dress.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Because I kind of wondering like how does that kind of blend with the themes of this one?
Well, basically the two are only linked by the fact that they're magical boys. Because the backgrounds are very much different. Because the director of Forever is like a guy who went to a guy's school, whereas the creator, the original creator of Mahou Shoujo Ore was someone who had a background in yaoi. So yeah, there's very different angles coming in here.
I might have to watch it.
Like there's some kind of like homosexual sort of vibes coming through, but then I guess it really depends on how you look at it.
Fair enough.
Well, in Mahou Shoujo Ore.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
well, there are sort of yaoi vibes in both, but then different sorts, I guess.
Okay, so I really like Naja's post because she kind of breaks it down how I would usually think about topics. She pretty much starts off by defining what masculinity is, which I think a lot of our members did, because I know Matt mentioned it, I know I did it.
Yeah, there are some people who literally just did the definition of masculinity as their like.
And some people had a huge like
Well, I
encyclopedia
didn't tackle
like post.
this prompt, so yeah.
Because I feel like we just think like masculinity, and then like you just think of like a man, but then it's like, well, what does it mean to be a man? So I like that Naja kind of went through like a couple examples in like different genres. She looks at shonen. I believe she also looked at shoujo, and then she was like, there's this show, and this one subverts the idea of masculinity by parodying the traditional feminine magical girl anime genre. And I want to watch this show just for that, because I decided to stay away from this show because I was like, boys in like these magical outfits.
Well, that's it. It seems to be a very simple conceit, but then like the fact that it's tackled this head on is like not something that was like common at the time until like suddenly after people became confident in doing more magical boy sort of things. Like Sarazan Might this season, it's kind of like boy, at least in my head.
Yeah, so I'm seeing it a little bit more. Well, I only know those two that we mentioned. So there was that. I also really liked that she mentioned topics that guys discuss. I'm not a guy, so I don't know what guys discuss, but it almost seems like if you're not a guy, you don't know what they talk about. If you're not a girl, you don't know what girls talk about. So it was nice to be like, you kind of just assume.
Please about football and guys and shooting and things. I'm sorry.
I talk about anime and my husbands, so I'm very simple.
League of Legends the boy pretty cool. That's Q and Finny. I haven't actually seen that season, but yeah, there is like an actual accepted, well, kind of majorly accepted. Pretty cute, yeah.
I've never seen Pretty Cure either. I think I've not heard of it before, so.
I've heard of it, just haven't gone around to it, I guess.
Like, a lot of it is just lockout, really.
Yeah, see, Lynn knows what I'm talking about when males and what they talk about and everything.
I'm just a magical girl fan here, so don't mind me. Are we moving on, or?
Oh, yeah, so I was just gonna say that I really liked that she kind of mentioned feelings too. I think everyone mentioned it, and I thought that was interesting because we all noticed that men usually aren't portrayed as being emotional.
They're normally like the strong, silent type.
Yeah, so it was nice to kind of see this one because they're all like really cute and very happy personalities and everything.
Happy personalities is probably not the way to describe it, but anyways.
Moving on, if nobody has anything else to say. Next up is Irina, who talks about imposed masculinity by women, which is interesting because Naja kind of talks about it but doesn't really go into detail, so now we have Irina doing it. So, who wants to start?
Scott, you nominated yourself as first.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I've only got this one line here about Ko's comment down the bottom of the Natsume post, so go.
Yeah, and I've seen all 6 seasons of Natsume, so
I haven't watched any Natsume.
I watched like
wonderful.
one episode.
I've got my hands up here.
But I really like Irina's perspective of selling masculinity to certain audiences in this article about like how different a male author would do it compared to a female author, and like what.
Yeah, I feel like that sort of should have been touched on in the Full Metal Alchemist post later on, but yeah, they didn't touch on it.
But Irina from interesting perspectives all the way, and it's just like, yeah, all right. But does one gender usually know what the other gender wants? Is the question.
That's an interesting point.
Aria? Anything to add?
Well, I feel like there's a lot of shows that are like guy directors that are doing like, say, Ultimate Game adaptations or something, and then like it's sort of like, you know, the idea of imposed masculinity right there. I kind of like lost the point as soon as you went like Aria.
Yeah.
So yeah, continue.
Okay, so what I noted was that, well, first I just want to say that Irina's posts are always awesome. And
yes, they are.
They're always about Natsume. This is, I think, the 4th month that she's done Natsume. She's talked about it for all our tours, so yeah, I'm impressed. Yeah, I haven't watched any of it, so I mean, well, actually, I watched like one episode, maybe. But I really liked that Aria or not Aria, Irina kind of mentions how women portray male characters as very like slender and they're simple and there's kind of something about perfect about them. And so now male directors and creators are kind of imitating that. So I thought that was interesting. But also, since I haven't watched this, I was kind of going to tie it into Boys Love because there's this whole thing with Boys Love where the creators are all women and yaoi is geared towards women, but if you look back into like the history of it, a lot of people prove that this is just women portraying their own relationships in what do you call it, in like that they're experiencing, so they're actually like heterosexual relationships instead of boys love. So I thought that was interesting. And it's kind of like, well, is Natsume actually like a woman or is it a boy? And there's like this.
Well, I guess all sorts of shonen sort of bring up that question. Like,
Yeah,
is it about
is.
like femininity, or is it about masculinity, or is it just about bringing both sides together? Personally, I think it's about getting the best of both worlds, to quote Hannah Montana. But
and that is heavily commented on in the series itself, where like he's told how weak he is or how like much a pushover he is sometimes, and a lot of people, especially children, they're mean. And
And then I just wanted to say something that Irina says in her post. Because I thought that aside from being an analysis on like this on masculinity, it was also kind of like a letter to like all the guys. So she says, guys, you don't need to fix everything. We can take care of ourselves. In fact, you should let us take care of you. We're really good at it. You don't have to be superheroes. Thank you so much for trying, though. So I really liked that.
well, to quote what Crow said down below, we fight best side by side.
Yes.
And well, that just happens no matter the gender, I guess.
So next up is Takuto, who I am not gonna say is one of my favorite bloggers, but I'm gonna say he's one of my favorite bloggers.
Just get it out in the open. He's really good.
Right. Also, he's not gonna be able to be here because he's doing a performance somewhere, and I didn't know he.
Yeah, what Tchaikovsky's symphonies.
Yeah, he usually just pops up in the chat randomly, but he's not gonna do that today.
Darn it.
Okay.
Should we say mean things about him while he's gone, or
right?
Should we just go back? Yeah.
You can't stop us. Okay, who wants to
I
start?
think the closest thing we can say to the main thing is that he writes really long posts, and even then, like, long posts are not necessarily a bad thing.
Who wants to start?
Well, you nominated yourself to start. Go.
I'm nominated. Since I loved Run with the Wind just as much as Taku did, even though I haven't written as much things as him yet, I really liked his character study of Haiji and like how nurturing he was, despite how forceful he was at the very beginning of the series, and about how he wasn't really the pushy. Well, he was pushy type, but
yeah, he's pretty pushy. At least from the 2 episodes I saw.
Especially the beginning of the series, yeah. But about how towards the middle of it, he started becoming like the team mom and like influenced everybody in their own way, and made sure like they were fed correctly and they trained correctly for each their own individual body types and everything, and just like it brings me back to how watching the show and how awesome Haiji was, and
Well, I find it interesting that there's very much a focus on psychological support in Takuto's post. I'm not sure if that's in the show itself per se, but yeah.
It's kind of somewhat little
As much as
subtextual, I think.
Yeah, keep being here. Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree with Aria. That's what seemed to be like the main thing that Takuto was talking about, because I felt like some of the characteristics that he mentioned at first were like, well, a guy can be this, but then because I watch quite a bit of sports anime, we're finally falling into a territory that I know. I have not watched this one though yet. I need to though.
You should.
Shame. But I really liked. Yeah.
Easy.
I really liked that he mentions that, because I was thinking back to like Haikyuu. Whenever people were struggling with how to become better players, everyone was like, "Oh, leave them alone. They'll figure it out by themselves." But it sounds like Haiji, whenever he sees someone struggling, he doesn't just like leave them alone. He's like, let's talk. Or at least that's the impression I got. I haven't watched it yet. And so he tries to help them out individually. And
Yes.
yeah, and then he doesn't just, he's very considerate, because I know Takato mentioned that he strives for the team to work as a team, and if something isn't working, they change their game plan so that everyone's comfortable. And I'm like, yes, that's amazing. So I think
It's
it's
just something about shonen like not really focusing on psychological support. I don't know who.
yes, and they need it.
Was it first or was it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, some of them are self-motivated. Others, well, they need help because of their weight
Because I'm
or
not the
something.
expert on sports anime here.
What happened?
I think we got a little bit totally.
Okay, so
Oh.
next up is me. So I can't say anything about my own. So if you guys just want to talk about it.
Well, kind of interesting to do that when you're here talking with us.
Yeah. I feel like you're gonna judge us from afar.
Yes, I know. You can automatically judge us when we hear your voice.
Especially because there's like a personal bit at the end.
It's okay.
Yes.
I would have judged you in the chat anyway. No.
Yeah, but it's a lot different vocally from,
I won't say anything. Rip my post apart.
I don't think I could do that. Like, you talked about all your World War One books that you have attached to your posts, and lately, well, a while ago, do you know about weekly World War One or the Great War posts on YouTube where they talk about what happens every week?
No.
Well, they covered a lot of the things that you did with like all the horrors of the trenches, like all the bad smells, all the decaying bodies and everything. And how do you get used to that?
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. So a lot of what you wrote about, like, you're supposedly your males are supposed to be the breadwinners of their groups, and like the able-bodied, silent types pushing all families forward by to do that after suffering so many effects of the war and everything. It's just like, yeah, it's kind of horrifying. And then you go through all that, and then paying for like your support and everything, but nobody wants that for male stereotypical reasons. Yeah, that's kind of powerful stuff you're playing around here with.
I guess it's kind of awkward to play around with history when most of this is about media, especially like anime, which is like sometimes the most detached thing from reality ever.
It's true,
Like,
but that doesn't mean that it's invalid to do so.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's invalid to do so. It's just a sort of different playing field because it's actually what happened.
Yeah, fair enough.
Um,
And sorry. And tying all those World War experiences with like current time period, like a lot of nuance in this post. I can't really say anything against it.
I always feel like history is like well I don't think I'm expressing myself correctly. Like there's this critique, there's this kind of academic critique that male is the norm and female is the other. There's that sort of feeling at the start, and then it just sort of devolves when she starts talking about the current day. Well, she being Crimson, of course.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, really, people should talk more about their specialty subjects. Like, Crimson does that a lot. I know I do, but I feel like people don't do that a lot in regards to ours because they have this pressure to talk about media. But
Yeah,
even though, like, that's our mission, I feel like we should expand a bit, maybe.
I agree with that.
Because I know that Crimson has really inventive things. Like, she did the reggaeton thing, I think it was, last month.
Yes.
Yeah, that was interesting. Like, I had a whole bunch of comments on that, but I won't throw that in here. Anything else?
I can't really add anything to that, really.
Cool. Thank you. And then up next we have Matt, who talks about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is the thing that one of the series that I was sort of expecting in this because it's like really masculine, really like ideas of masculinity are right there in the thing, even though I've barely seen a lot of JoJo's. Maybe Scott can say more about this because I know that he watches JoJo.
I am current up to part 5 that's been going on recently. I guess I don't. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of
This post
apologizing
was
here.
Matt's post was a great character study of the first 3 parts of the story with all their different points of views, their personalities, their how they usually think, how they fight, and everything. And seeing him compare like them all together and then solid opinion of what masculinity is well pretty thoughtful, pretty interesting. I guess I never really thought about going this direction myself, but I quite enjoyed it.
I feel like okay, I know that in one part of JoJo's there was a female character, and I feel like that could have been used as either a counterpoint or actually part of the argument because well she's upholding a very Jolene is upholding a very sort of masculine well not really hierarchy but history I guess like ancestry.
Oh yeah, like she is the
Well,
daughter
I don't
to.
really know much about Jolene aside from her name, but
Okay.
yeah, I feel like that could be.
I mean, like that's only something I know in passing because it's like I think it's the next part that's going to be in if they ever adapt it, but easily gone in that direction. Definitely, yeah. Because I don't know much about her either. I've seen some memes around the internet, but I want to get to know her. She seems pretty awesome.
Well,
so I actually haven't watched JoJo. I
tried to get into the series, but I never really got that far into it.
Yeah, I think I only watched like one scene, but that was like at a convention when they were doing like the what is it called? Like the auditions. So I saw a little bit there and it looked interesting. But there's just something about like the art that I'm just like I don't really want to watch it, but I know it's hilarious, so I feel like I should watch it. So it's like this thing that I'm fighting with myself about. And I'm not sure who mentioned it, Scott or Aria. You guys mentioned that they all look very masculine, like what we typically think of as like manly. So I thought that was interesting that he would choose a series that seems to fit more into the mold of what society kind of thinks about as masculinity, since everyone's kind of like picking things that are a little bit further removed from that.
Well,
Like that sort of time period in regards to anime and manga was very much about like the thick lines, the masculinity, like the
yeah, I mean,
sort of
it
thing.
was very Fist of the North Star kind of things, and like for the 3 parts
Yeah,
that
like
Matt covers in the series here, like that's kind of where Araki kind of gets his art style from. It does change a lot from part 4 on. Like they have a lot more slimmer figures in part 4, and then it goes a lot different direction from then on. But
like I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's good because I feel like everyone's like, these are really good things about that these shows are subverting, but like some of the things that characteristics and traits that are seen as masculine, they're not all bad. So it's really nice to see this post kind of show us different characters that kind of do follow these usual views of masculinity, but they're all really different. So it's like you don't just have to be like this gentleman. You can also be like a jokester, or you can be a little bit more like brutish. Those are the 3 different masculine types that Matt talked about. So I like this post.
like it's very good posts.
Okay, up next is Megan.
Yeah.
So Megan talked about one of her inspirations slash role models in pop culture. So who wants to start?
Well, she's on a chat with us, so it's kind of like
She's listening.
Wait, who's talking now?
You want to go first?
Scott.
No.
Wait. No, I can go mention someone else. Anyways. Well, I feel like, well, I mentioned in my notes here that, that I'm very much the reverse scenario of Scott, as in, like, I've grown up, like, in a very feminine manner. Like, interpret that as you will. At least in my opinion. And yeah, I still took like this route in regards to like my future pursuits. Like I wanted to go into IT and international studies, which are both like personified, well, not really personified, but rather characterized by mostly masculinity. I feel like that sort of thing is just what made me relate to what Megan was saying here, even though like just to throw myself in there.
Okay.
As for the post itself, I think Matt said something about soft masculinity.
What I need to do is, after reading your post, I really need to watch or read some Tintin because, like, I know.
Well, I haven't read much Tintin myself.
I know my parents know what it is, and my dad has talked about it a little bit, but I really need to get into it myself because it sounds pretty fun with all. Well,
I guess I just never really was interested in like the comics that weren't American or Japanese.
Yeah, either way. I mean, like, Tintin sounds like a pretty fun and pure to himself kind of guy that goes on a lot of very fun adventures, like very like I would say. But So like Indiana Jones, like picture of masculinity here. Like at the same time, like Tintin seems pretty open about how he feels and everything. Sounds like a pretty nice guy that I want to meet, and I'm glad that Megan has really great time growing up with this thing, and I feel that way with a lot of things.
Back to what I was saying though. She was
Sorry.
described more like an ideal in this post, I feel like. But it's sort of like the person that anyone can be, which is what makes this character useful for something like OWLS. Yeah, that's it for me. It's on Netflix, it's like
So I noted, well, I mentioned to Megan that I really liked her post last month. I know she was really worried about how like what she was writing and everything, and I told her that I really connected with it, and I feel the same in this one. There's a part where there's a part where she says, "I am more masculine than I am feminine," and I kind of have to agree on some of this. I'm like thinking and reading Lita's comment. I grew up in a very like male family because like I just have brothers and like there's my dad. I've always lived with either an uncle or like a family friend who's also a guy, and like most of my friends were guys, so I understand where she's coming from. So I always
I had a lot of female friends, but then I also had some male friends at the start. And I feel like these days I get along better with guys. Simply because
I think
the girls sort of lock me out.
I feel like nowadays I kind of have a little bit of everyone, except for online. I think online I tend to have more female friends, but I don't know why. I can't tell if they're women or men until they tell me. But I also like I really connected with that, and I've not watched Tintin before. I'm probably not going to because it's kind of old, but I might. Who knows?
Yeah, I feel like the age of
There's a new film, so like
part of what put me off.
Mm.
But I can also see through Megan's post how it endured through the ages.
Yeah, and I like how she mentions that this is a really good series, but it's also problematic because it was written in the past. So I like that she mentioned that. Anything else?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah,
I think we're okay.
Okay, and then next we have Fred's post, which I have a lot to say about, but I will let you guys speak first.
I guess I don't have much to say about it because it pretty much says a lot of things for itself. Just big encyclopedia about how he views a lot of.
I didn't expect that for OWLS.
Yes, because, I know.
Like geared towards the humanities naturally as like writers and people who focus on media.
Yeah. And it covered a lot of series, and it
covered a lot of archetypes about masculinity, but I feel like Bishonen were missing. Basically all but well, you being Fred, basically all but state them in the pretty boys section, but well, there's a very fine line between Bishi's pretty boys and traps. There's kind of like a sliding scale of like masculinity between the three of them. Because Bishonen can actually still assert their masculinity, but not quite in the same way that pretty boys do. Because pretty boys look more masculine, at least in my opinion.
Not something I thought about a lot before.
I actually didn't know a lot of these like different categories that he mentioned, and then once I was looking through them, I was like, wait, these do exist, but I don't really know too much about the pretty boy and the Bishonen characters, even though technically my blog is all about like Bishonens, which is funny. But I really liked Fred's post because everyone's like, well, what is masculinity? And it's like, well, there's all these social constructs that we look at, but at the end, or like not at the end, at the beginning, it's technically just biology, and then we just attach all of these things to just this chromosome that he talks about. And then there's a part where he says men are highly modified women, and I thought that was hilarious. So
It was.
and I was like, wow. I also like his tone. Like, it's very, I don't know if it's the right word, but I was like, it's kind of like cynical, where he's like, this is what it is, and this is what people kind of do, and like, we should be more aware of what we're consuming in media, and if you're not, it's like, well, that's on you, sort of thing. So I thought it was very direct tone.
I'm not sure if direct tone is the right word for it, but
Yeah, I feel like I'm not saying the right word, but like it's very like it calls your attention to it.
It's very forward, if anything.
Mm. Anything else?
Still not sure what to say about everything here, because like it goes on for a while. I feel like Nadja is saying that like it's very long.
It is, but I think he kind of breaks it up in a really good way after the data, because I was like looking at these graphs and I'm like, I don't understand, but I think that everything that he had to say was really interesting. Next up is Scott. So Scott, you can't say anything. You must take our fury.
Bring it.
Did you want to start, Aria?
Well, I still need to get around to Chihaya Furu. I know that there's a season 3 coming out. I think it's in October. Let's see. Well, I kind of mentioned what I was going to say already. That I kind of grown up in like the opposite way that he hasn't yet. I'm still kind of gone along in ways that I consider to be masculine. Let me just pull up the post and see if I can say anything else. You can talk in the meantime.
Okay, so I have not watched Chihaya Furu. I think that's how you say it. And
well, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right myself, but
yeah, I decided not to watch it because I'm evil, and I saw the girl as the main character, and I was like, I can't watch this because I'm weird. But I'm thinking of changing my mind because it actually sounds like a really good series. I really liked that this series kind of takes the male characteristics and kind of gives them to the girl is her name Chihaya or what? Chihai. Okay, so the creators give her these characteristics where she only thinks about this game and she wants to be the best, and that's usually what you see the guy characters do in like the sports shows and everything.
Well, really, there's like sort of a gap in regards to that sort of genre, as in like sports shows with quotation marks, with female leads. I think the only other one I've seen is Angelica Layer, which could really count as something like that, but
I would.
I feel like there's a lot, I just don't know about them. But I think especially this season, there was like this baseball one that's all about the girls, and then I think there's another one that
are you
was
talking about Cinderella 9?
I don't remember what it's called. Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it had Cinderella somewhere in the title. And I guess the only thing that I know, she's not really the main thing that you talked about, Scott. But I was
because talks about the dudes afterwards.
yeah, but I I thought it was interesting that you called her a tomboy, and I know someone mentions it um in the series as kind of like jokingly, and I think that we tend to do that a lot, just like in real life. Like we just say things jokingly, but it's like you say it enough times and you start to kind of like it becomes kind of like a message. And so even here it's like, well, she has all these like masculine traits, but she's a tomboy, which is like, well, she's not like a real female, so to speak. So I thought that was interesting. But his post actually focuses on her two friends. One of them is Arata and the other one's Taichi. And I guess the thing that I mostly got out of the post was that it's okay to be emotional and sensitive. And one of the characters is already like that, but Taichi seems to go through like this process of getting there, because at first he's like the ideal alpha type, I think you wrote in your post.
Ideal alchemist.
Yeah.
There we go.
And then after a while, he kind of just like experiences all these things, and then he kind of softens and he becomes more sensitive and emotional to things. So I thought that was really interesting.
I feel like that sort of journey is epitomized in a lot of shoujo romantic interests. There, I can't believe it. As in, like, there's a lot of bad boys in shoujo, and then they just sort of soften up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems
Like
about.
Cure from Fruits Basket, maybe. That's the sort of person I have in mind.
Oh yeah, because new show or.
So Yomo mentioned that he wants to hear what you have to say, Scott, about your own post.
No, you don't. A lot of my posts are like, "This is the worst thing ever," and I'll hit post anyway.
Lies, they're good. Yomo, if you had a specific question that you wanted him to kind of like talk about, because I feel like we just don't really know what to talk about in terms of our own posts. So,
I wonder if I can still pull up my notes from last time. There we go. Found them in my junk.
so we're almost at the end. I can't. Wow, that was fast. Our next one is by Jack, and he talks about Full Metal Alchemist. Who's going first?
Got
Hey,
because I haven't watched Full Metal Alchemist. Sue me.
Yeah, I've seen both of them. No, I can't sue you. You have some great anime to watch. Well, he talked about one scenario from the beginning of the series, the Leor arc. Both series have that. Jumps from that to religion and science, alchemy specifically, and then he talks about how don't play substantial roles in Full Metal Alchemist in either alchemy or religion here. So it's pretty short. I wish he would go detail some of his points a little more.
Okay, what have I got to say?
That point of view.
I feel like it was sort of this post was more about power than masculinity, but then again, we sort of associate traditionally masculinity with power. Let's see. Everyone else pretty much has addressed masculinity as a concept and how it relates to media. So I feel like this is sort of like a hands-off sort of way of looking at the topic. I'm not sure if that's the right term for it, but that's the way I describe it, I guess. Because it was talking about it more in general rather than like in a very specific sort of way. Because he does outright state that that he's talking about masculinity in institutions rather as general concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Crimson?
So I really like Jack's post. This is probably one of the few um series that I've actually watched. I watched the original, I watched Brotherhood, I watched the live action,
The best by far is the manga. That's it.
I watched stuff multiple times. So when he mentions that not a lot of like that there are no female alchemists, I was like blown away. Like I did not notice this, and I watched this series so many times. So
I mean,
Yeah,
State
I think I mentioned
Alchemist
earlier
probably. Like, there is one female
some-
alchemist.
because I know that they have the teacher, but it's like it feels like if you think about it in terms of like she being the only one, well, Ed and Al needed a teacher, so let's give them a female teacher. And then, if you think about it, she's more there for like a specific purpose. And so I thought that was
Then again, teachers are mostly feminine, so there's sort of like
Yeah.
that existing power construct there.
yeah.
And well, she does kind of play the mother's role in the whole show, kind of,
Yes.
sort of.
Yes, so I thought that was interesting because he also mentions Risa, and she's in the military and everything, but she technically doesn't do alchemy. She's always using guns, and I'm like, well, why? Like, what is this? And she's also like a subordinate. She's not like really a main character, sort of but yeah.
It'd be interesting if you like gender swap the entire thing and see what would happen.
And then
The strange thing is the mangaka is a female.
I did hear about that, which is also interesting
Yeah.
now that I'm thinking about it. Huh. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah.
I mean, she does have great female characters, just not too many of them, I guess.
Because actually, Mel talked about this in her post from last one, and like she goes through all the female characters in Fullmetal Alchemist, and I'm like, yeah, they're all great, but when you think about it, they're not really alchemists.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting. But I agree with you, Scott. I wish that Jack would have talked a little bit more about the whole power dynamics thing. I had to look up what that meant because I had no idea what it was.
Wait, look up which exactly?
I had to look up power dynamic because I was like, I feel like I've heard of this term, but I don't really know what it means. And so I feel like having explored that concept a little bit more would have been a little bit helpful for me. But yeah, I really like the idea of the post.
Yeah, the idea is.
That it for everyone?
Yeah, so our last one is what happened?
No.
Okay.
Lynn's turn.
Oh yeah, so Lynn is gonna be our last person. So yeah, who wants to start? Oh, actually, hold on. So Lynn says it's an important term, power dynamic, but there are multiple definitions of it. So I think that Jack could have also taken that route.
Yeah, it depends on the sort of power, really. There are different types of power.
Yeah. So, okay.
Because there's like hard power, soft power, financial power. Blah. I could go on. Sorry, I studied this stuff.
It's okay.
It's fine, like, all the things.
Who wants to talk about Lynn's post first?
Let's see, it was about Mulan. Let's see. The thing is that I really, really love Mulan. You don't know. And I find it interesting that she focused on a song, specifically the one that's about like masculinity being, well, in that context, it's about strength in a physical sense. But then it goes on to talk about masculinity in other sorts of senses. But then it's resourcefulness that ends up driving the rest of the movie. So what do you have to say? What do you have to say, Scott?
I really like how Lynn went detail and went over every single line and what she thinks it means in context to, well, like you said, Aria, of the series and what happened in the film.
OWLS
What
isn't
that?
really a series per se. It's just like one movie and then like a sequel.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. My mind is caught in anime. Even then, like movies, I still sometimes have to cross out series and then type movie again. A lot of my posts because I keep forgetting. I really like how she went over everything, like all the specific kind of masculine, as you said already, all the characteristics of everything, and how it pertains to combat, how it pertains to pretty much life in this kind of world that is Mulan. And well, she did a pretty great job. Very
I
focused,
find it
very
interesting that she didn't really argue one way or another. She just trusts readers to make their own decision, which is really a wise thing.
which is also a way to do it, really. Like everybody's going to read it their own way.
I really like this post because it's something that I'm starting to incorporate in one of my blogs. No, we will not sing it.
I am a musician. I am not a singer. There's a reason why I don't sing.
Yeah, we can't sing. And I think it's interesting because
No, Lynn, no.
right, because you know, anime is really niche.
They're saying it in the chat. Sorry, I got carried away.
I don't know what to defeat is. Is that part of the lyrics?
No, it's not the lyrics. It's like,
okay.
Write it down. All the lyrics
the
now.
idea. No, I'm not gonna sing it, Lynn. Why are you making me sing it?
What's happening?
Don't make me sing it.
Hello, Devin.
Anyway.
But I thought it was interesting that she used a song because anime is really niche, and so like we all watch it, but not a lot of people do. But with music and especially Disney, it's like tons of people, you know, consume this, and
Still do.
and,
Forever.
yeah, and so she kind of talks about well, I guess mainly what the lyrics mean and what Captain Lee Shang expects from his men, and they're like all masculine characteristics. But she also kind of says, you know, this trait isn't bad and that trait isn't bad, but you know how we're kind of telling guys to only be this, or kind of like they're one dimensional. You know, I feel like a lot of people. I think I already mentioned this in another post, in Matt's post. It's like all of these traits aren't really specifically bad, but you know, if you just concentrate and you're like, here, do this, you have to be emotionless, you have to be strong, you have to be this, and it's like, well, not all of those traits are bad, especially in certain contexts, but when you kind of just impose them on certain people, it's like in a bubble, it's kind of bad. And I guess I'm also thinking that it's interesting because Mulan, or I always think of Disney movies as geared towards children. So, and children kind of just sing anything without really realizing what they're saying. And not just children, adults too. I do that too a lot.
Yes.
And,
Still do.
and you kind of don't think about it, but when you just keep repeating it, it kind of just stays as like a message, and that's how I usually think about it. But it's like once you start to actually analyze it, like Lynn does her posts, like, well, you know, it's not all great. Especially since Mulan was supposed to be like this really awesome movie, where, you know, Mulan kind of is amazing and everything, right? But it's like she's taking up these this position of like the man going to war and everything, against like what her culture believes. But then you have like Li Shang being like, oh, well, you have to do these different things. Being a man, as Lynn is saying in the chat. And then at the end of the movie, it's like you realize that having kind of like masculine and feminine traits. She keeps singing it in the chat.
Yeah,
Having
I was going to
masculine
mention that
and
there's
feminine
going to be a live
traits.
action version soon, but then
Yeah.
I forgot.
So I thought that was interesting. Music is a force to be reckoned with. She probably is.
Sorry.
Any parting comments, guys? Because she was the last post.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of a short tour this time, so.
It was.
It was a very difficult story to write, so it's not
Some
surprising.
of the posts really skirted around the topic, and some of it really took it head on by explaining their personal. Some bloggers really explained their personal relationship with masculinity, but either way, we got a really nice spread, and I think that everyone's done a good job. So good job, people.
Yes.
Yay! Good job.
Yes. So
And Lynn's still singing.
this is like technically like one tour. You know, it was the masculinity tour, but I like to think of it as like a 2-month-long tour because we did feminine last month, but it kind of like all our posts kind of mentioned men and women, so it's like this whole 2 months of like just looking at gender and gender expectations. So I thought that was really cool. Everyone's pretty much said that it's been one of our toughest prompts.
Yeah.
So thank you, Lynn, for making us work hard. She's the one who creates our prompts.
Hey, Lynn. We're not singing though.
No, we're
Yeah, we are
not.
not.
And then now we have some announcements. If you guys have nothing else to add.
Not really.
Okay, I have nothing else either. So thank you, Scott and Aria, for volunteering. I know both of you, this is your first time for OWLS, so I was very excited. I know, Aria, this was your first time doing anything like this, right? Because I think you were saying that you'd never done like podcasts.
Yeah, I've never done Google Hangouts before. I've never done.
So that was very exciting. You're debuting with OWLS. And we hope that everyone enjoyed the tour on masculinity and our blubbering mess of a talk right now. If you guys want to know more about OWLS or how to join, please contact us. We're always looking for more people to join. The only like rules or expectations is that you guys are excited about our mission and that you guys communicate with us. Don't ghost us, as I have recently learned the term. Our information is going to be in the description after the video renders because I was taking too long to start the stream. I know we started late. Technical difficulties. It was my first time and I'm like a derp. You can find the posts on the website. Let me just stick that in there real quick.
Let's see if I can do this.
And then,
oh, dang.
I bet you to the fudge.
Yeah, and we are OWLS bloggers across the internet, so we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and then our OWLS website, I just dropped it in the chat. It's owlsbloggers.wordpress.com. We are also taking prompt suggestions, so you can message us at OWLS Bloggers, any of our social media sites. You can also message Lynn. Her Twitter is Lynn Says. We're also going to drop that in the description. She's the one who creates them, so talking with her directly would be the best option, but we could also, like, if you guys send it via the OWLS chat or the OWLS DM or any other of our members, we'll send it to her.
You forgot to introduce the May.
Yes, and now we're going to introduce the May prompt, which, you know, if I were smart, I would have had that open already.
I have it somewhere here. If you just wait a second.
So
Because I got my list kind of written up, but not really, because I still need to format it. Happiness is subjective. That's all I think. Do you want me to read it out, even though I nominated you?
did you want to read it?
Do it.
Okay, I'll read it. So happiness is subjective. We all have different definitions of what happiness means to us, and we also feel happiness in varying degrees. This month we will be exploring several questions describing our happiness in our fandoms, communities, and hobbies. Why do we find enjoyment watching anime or reading manga? Why do we decide to join the anime or pop culture communities? Why do we blog about our hobbies or cosplay as our favorite character? This topic is all about the passions we have for our interests and why they are important to us. For happiness.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that's what we're going to be talking about in May. So expect a lot of screaming from all our members. We have a full schedule. I think we have like 20 posts or something. So I read off the people last month, but we only had a few of them this month. It would take forever. But just expect a lot of things.
It's going to be very meta.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot. And then we'll see you guys all at the next stream, which is gonna hopefully happen early June. I'm still working out the dates, and you might have different hosts every month. We do different people, so that everyone can participate if they want to join in. So that's all. Thank you for stopping by. Bye.
So,